You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander Skullion and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. This is episode 99, and we're feeling fine. We're recording this on the 15th of February, day after Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are having a great one. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joined with me as always is my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Can't help but think of that song, 99 Red Luft Balloons Go By.
Which version do you prefer? Do you like the English or the German version?
You know, I'm way more. I've heard the German one. A little bit more familiar with the U.S. and we used to have a local punk band, FFOS, Fistful of Shit. They used to do a cover of it too, which was always a show highlight. It was really cool. I just have fond memories of that song in general. Anyone really, I think will do. They're all good.
Yeah, and we got a pretty good episode. We got some gaming news we're going to talk about. Not a whole lot's been going on lately, but that, and also we want to talk about games that we love that others hate. And I mean, this is all subjective, but I'm going to start first with the news topics. And I'm going to pull up my little browser here because PS4 has a new update that's coming out that I'm really excited about. And that is PS4 will now support external hard drives in upcoming update. Sony showed off a preview of the next software update for the Sony PlayStation 4, which adds a long-awaited feature to the console in external hard drive support. While the Xbox One owners have been able to do this for ages, the only way for owners to expand the storage for a PS4 has been to replace the internal drive. And to be fair, Sony has tried to make it as simple as possible, but it's been still kind of hectic to replace that internal storage. But now it'll just be a lot easier. What do you think about this, James? I'm kind of excited about this.
I'm pretty pumped. Right before this was announced, me and a friend of mine were a buddy of mine. We used to get up for wrestling pay-per-views all the time. But as the network, the WWE network came along, it's just much easier to stay at home and watch yourself instead of everybody, pitching in the money. But we just recently started getting back up again, which is really awesome. And he's also, he's got the Xbox and a PS4, and we came upon the discussion of hard drive space. And he was talking about wanting to get an external one. He's like it's just so much easier. He's like, because even with the space, I was like, yeah, man, I got the terabyte. And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, still, you're gonna eat through that in no time before you know it. And he's probably right. So with the ability to do this, very exciting, just to not have to, which I knew would come at some point, dealing with that shuffling of space that I dealt with so much on the PS3. It's a headache. It's a pain. I don't really want to, erase the memory of a game and then, have to go back and re-download it. And it's just that stuff we just really don't want to do. Even if it's a game you don't play a whole lot, you'd just rather have it on full-on access for you to be able to play at any moment, I think. And with, this ability, it's awesome. Really nothing but excited about it. Just forever space. That's what it's going to be. It's something all of these consoles should do. I'd never messed with it much, so I didn't really realize. Like you said, things a little bit more difficult messing with the Eternal. It would just be a bit of a pain. With this, anything that would be easier for the layman that doesn't really know a whole lot about that, which it is a good chunk of people, really. I like to consider myself somewhat knowledgeable, but who knows when it comes down to the end. So anything that makes that easier. So many games are downloadable. More people are going, into that format, and with that, becoming more prevalent, we really need the ease and access of updating and having these bigger hard drives so we can fit all this crap and all these awesome games that always pop up for cheap as easy as possible. So
yeah, Yeah, especially with all these flash sales that we have, and it says it's going to support drives up to 8 terabytes, which is, I mean, for some people that seems like, you know, endless amount of memory, but I mean, also consider the fact that, you know, some patches, some games you get, you know, when you first get them, the install base is already, you know, over 15 gigs and whatnot. It adds up real quick, and that's just not just on games. Like, say you want to save game shots or you want to record game footage, that all adds up. So I think this is really cool. I think it's really cool that they're doing this. I think this will help utilize the support of like 3D Blu-rays and virtual reality using like the PlayStation VR. I think I'm really excited about it. And if for you guys who are wondering what update it's going to be update 4.50. It's going to be coming up very soon.
You know, every time you turn on your PS4, is doing something. If something is updated, this and that, I don't even know what's going on. It seems kind of cool, you know, because it's just like, hey, it just did this. It's like, oh, awesome. Like, I don't really know, you know, what you did, but there's always constant updates. Who knows, you know, what space these updates and constant things are taking up. So, you know, just that ability to put something on that it's like, hey, I don't have to worry about this for, you know, maybe 6 months. Hey, that'll be great.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going on with PlayStation right now. Now, Nintendo dropped the bombshell yesterday with some new Switch news, and this is preferably Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is going to be the launch title for the Switch. This is the game that people are buying the Switch for. It is coming out also for the Wii U, which is going to be the last Wii U game. But they kind of dropped the bombshell. Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to be coming out with a season pass. It's going to be $20, and it says, if you thought Nintendo's next Zelda game didn't look expensive enough, well, you might be intrigued. Already sold at a $200, I mean, not $200, $20 season pass. Damn. I know, 200, holy shit. That will come out March 3rd. And this is going to be like a little bit of extra stuff, like new cave for trials, hard difficulty setting. Also, some stuff like Link's going to be wearing a Nintendo Switch t-shirt, so it's got some customization with that. And, you know, this isn't the first time that Nintendo's been doing DLC, but this is the first time that they've included DLC with a launch title, and I think this is the reason why some people have been up about it, some people have been kind of down about it. What are your thoughts about this, James? Because I do have some thoughts about this whole season pass with Zelda.
For me, things like that are just I'm not going to say they're the way of the future, because they've been going like this for a while.
Yeah.
And I think Nintendo's really trying to step up. You know, they've always been kind of accused of kind of hanging in the past, not being as up to date, as competitive. If this is the format they need to go, and like I said, $20, you know, yeah, no, the games are 60, add another 20. It's just like a lot of other games. You know, I hear there might be some extra dungeons. I'm sure Nintendo is actually going to be more, we'll say, you know, considerate or giving with the fact that they have something like this. I still believe in them, and I believe if they're going to charge you extra for something like that, it's going to be worth it. You know, you look at the DLC that they gave you for Mario Kart and such. You know, it was just awesome. It's like, you know, you could still go ahead and pay for it all up front, and then a little bit down the road, it's like, oh, this new crap just popped up on my game. It's awesome. I still have that faith in them. You know, some may say it's kind of blindly believing into something, but, you know, I grew up with them. I've seen the ups, I've seen the downs, but I think with something like this, I think they're going to come through and give you, the bang for your buck. You know, games, whatever they come out at 60, extra 20, you know, it is $20, but I'm sure it'll be more than $20 worth of funness that they end up giving you. So I think it's kind of cool, and like I said, you know, it's about time they kind of, you know, stepped up a little bit more into that, and if that's going to help them, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it kind of boggled my mind a little bit. A lot of people were actually kind of upset about it yesterday. I was on Facebook a little bit, and some people were kind of upset, but at the same time, like, a lot of people have said that Nintendo need to step up with the times, and Nintendo need to do stuff more like PS4 or Xbox One, and this is a prime example. I mean, how many times have we went to GameStop and pre-ordered a game, and while we pre-ordered it and went to go pick the game up, someone was like, hey, you want to go ahead and pre-order the season pass, like a game like Bloodborne or you know, Halo or Call of Duty.
Wrestling. Every wrestling game.
There's a season pass. Now, the thing about it is this is completely optional. This isn't something you have to buy. This is just something that, hey, if you want more Zelda experience, you can pay an extra $20. And it's a season pass, so you're getting a big bulk of content for $20, and the content is going to be spread out. You're going to have content that's coming out the spring of 2017, and then content coming out winter of 2017. So by the time that you're no longer playing Zelda, you're playing some other game on the Switch, boom, you got the season pass, you get reminded, holy shit, I can play more Zelda, I got more to play.
Exactly. Like I said, just with like the Mario, like I said, you go ahead and pay it, and it's almost like a surprise. By the time you've forgotten about it, some new stuff has popped back up, and it adds into it. I like that. It's very, like I said, funness. It to me, when I like to think of Nintendo, I like to think of fun, and that, you know, that extra stuff along the road, you know, like I said, by the time you forget about it, bam, it's in your face. Could be like a new game.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are like, you know, well, I hate the fact that it's probably like content that's like, you know, locked into the disc, because I know like Capcom did that with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where they had characters that were already written in code and they kind of locked it with the DLC. But the thing about it to me is like I said, it's optional. It's something you don't have to buy. If you want to experience more, you can. And at the same time, I mean, like I told people yesterday, I'm like, if you're upset about DLC and season passes, the best thing to do with that is just not to buy into it, because the reason why DLC and season passes are such a big thing is because there is a market for it. So if you don't agree with the Zelda Breath of the Wild expansion season pass, then don't buy it. That's the best thing you can do more damage with that than to, you know, make rants and get upset about something that you don't have to pay for. It's not a necessity, you know?
Yeah, I mean, haven't really, you got to have just come to accept this by this point, I would think, you know, as much as, even me too, you know, I complained about stuff like this at a point, but sometimes it's, like I said, it's not the way of the future, it's the way of now. It's been going on for a while. Now, I'm assuming, do you know this? I know me and you are in the same boat as far as getting Zelda on the Wii U. So I imagine, will the update be on Wii U also?
I'm thinking so.
We're hoping.
See, that would be something to be worth upset about. If the season pass is only for Switch owners only, that would be something to be upset about, because not only would that be a paywall, but that would also be neglecting Wii U owners, because, you know, this is the last Wii U game. Not everyone wants to go out there and buy the Switch yet. I personally, I don't want to buy it yet. It's not that I don't want one. I just want to wait until they have like a good selection of games. Maybe the launch titles will drop down in price. By the time I get a Switch this time next year, or maybe sooner, I'll have a good selection. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just being smart. I'm not in a rush to get the newest tech, you know. I'm a retro gamer at heart anyway, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's awesome, and we all admit, like, lots of times if we, you know, it had the fun, sometimes we would go ahead and, you know, step up and get the new thing. But like a lot of people, you know, like I said, you can do that. You set your money aside. Maybe you got some extra bucks. Maybe you don't blow your money on some dumb stuff like I do sometimes. You know, hey, I'm more power to you. I wouldn't be as mad, honestly, if it was Switch only. That's kind of like, I can see them, it's like throwing a little bit of bait out. You know, you're taking that chance. You might anger some people who are like, oh, I can't play it on Wii U. You might snag a few more, like, hey, I want that extra dungeon, you know, with like a rainbow colored rupee or something. And you might jump, you know, onto that as soon as you can instead of maybe waiting out. So it's one of those things we'll just kind of have to wait and see. At the end of it, I'm still glad I'm able to experience this game, you know, without having to jump to that next system. You know, it's like kind of still throwing a bone out to you. It's like, hey, you know, the system's dead, but it's like, it's like you still got a awesome game, that could very well be worth, that could. I mean, Wii U was always great anyway, but it could really solidify it as like, hey, this was a system that it was worth it, dropping the money on.
Yeah, because I mean, like, hell, it could be like this. Because I know some season passes and some DLC, you don't have to finish the other things before going into the DLC. So, say I finish Zelda on the Wii U. I go out and get a Switch, and I buy Zelda on the Wii U, and by this time that I buy Zelda, it could drop in price. I add the extra $20 for the season pass. Not only am I having a new experience playing Zelda on the Switch compared to the Wii U, but I'm enjoying brand new content that I haven't played before. That's something else to look into.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, that's something to look into. Now, that's about it with news, and our main topic for today's episode is we are talking about games that we love that others hate. Now, this is completely subjective, I did ask the Facebook group page, the Xsgaming podcast group page on Facebook, and you guys can join this group by joining facebook.com/group/Xsgaming podcast. And I had some people answer him. First was Jared Burns. He says, I rarely hear anything good about Snake, Rattle, and Roll, and that game ruled. Zillion 2 to another one. Everyone just goes with, the first was better. While I agree, the 2 is pretty great too. And there's Alex Kidd Lost Stars. It took a while, but it was a great, decent platformer. I actually do like Snake, Rattle, and Roll.
Yeah, I've heard some a little bit more, love than you would initially think around for that game. There's a few people here and there that mention it a bit more. Definitely a little bit more, kind of a little bit one of those hidden gem undercover games.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, Lynn Cosby says Duke Nukem 64 overshadowed by Goldeneye. Sure, it was amazing, but Duke 64 had full levels and none restrictions that Goldeneye gave you. And I do have to say, I've never played Goldeneye 64.
I recently played. Duke Nukem 64, right? Not Goldeneye.
Yeah, Duke Nukem.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard the wrong thing there. I recently played the Duke Nukem, and while it was actually a lot better than I thought it would be, I really had a lot of fun playing it. And maybe if I had experienced both at the same time, but just coming from only experiencing Goldeneye at that time, man, that game was an absolute blast. And I did, personally, like I said, it's hard. I didn't experience Duke Nukem during that time, only now, and I did like it, but man, I don't know. It's hard to beat Goldeneye, but all subjective, like you said.
Yeah, it's all subjective. Kaimitsu, and I cannot pronounce the last name. This is a Japanese name, so I'm not going to butcher it. But he said Shaq Fu in Resident Evil 6, and I was like, dude, I actually love Shaq Fu. Shaq Fu is really not that bad. It's really not. I
mean, at the end of the day, it's Shaq Fu.
Yeah.
Like, how does that... It's kind of amazing in its own that game even exists. It's one of those ones I think that does get that label of being more horrible than it is. Like I said, with that same level of it's cool that it's Shaq Fu, it's also like, man, it's Shaq Fu.
To me, it's like the Miami Connection of video games. Like for some of you guys who are listening, Miami Connection is such a cheesy 80s movie that's so cringe, but it is so good. I mean, taking into consideration that Shaq Fu is a fighting game in the vein of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, starring a well-known at the time. I mean, of course, Shaq is always well-known, but he was really big in the 90s. He was looked at as the next Michael Jordan. He had his own fighting game. That is freaking awesome. I mean, it's a video game. You can't take it too serious at that point.
Michael Jordan was never on wrestling. Shaq has done that. There's still rumors that Shaq and Big Show are going to have a match at this WrestleMania, and they've been teasing each other on Twitter and everything. It's probably gonna happen. It's a cheesy match, but still, it's just like, it's Shaq. He legitimately is larger than life. The dude is fucking huge. He's had rap albums, video games. He's done it all. He's outstanding.
Make an action RPG of Kazam. I'll play it day one. And of course, Resident Evil 6. I thought Resident Evil 6 wasn't that bad with just the Leon story. I didn't really care for the rest of it. But then again, I can't fault anyone for liking Resident Evil 6. It is what it is. Now, Matt, he says, I do like Vampire Hunter D on the PS1. It's basically like Resident Evil combined with Castlevania with a heavy dose of 80s style anime. It's great.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds awesome, but I do have to say that is one game that really disappointed me. Like, I don't think it's a pretty bad game. It's not a game that I would be like, oh, this is horrible. But it could have been better. But it is what it is. I would love to see a new Vampire Hunter D game with that aspect, but with a better direction, because it was done by Jaleco. Jaleco were known as like making bad games. So I mean, like, if you were to go out and buy Vampire Hunter D now for the PS1 and you see the Jaleco, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. So you're not going to expect, prestigious gameplay. It is.
I didn't even know they made games past, the 16-bit era, really. So,
yeah,
I give them props for still existing after that point.
I think the last game, I can't remember the title, but the last game on the Dreamcast was actually a Jaleco game.
They made Rival Turf, though, so I'll give them eternal props for that.
Now, John, our good friend from Gaming Through the Decades, he says, Perfect Dark Zero. Fuck the haters. I've never played Perfect Dark Zero, but I know that was a launch title for the Xbox 360, and it did not get as much praise as Perfect Dark for the 64. But I never played it.
I figure at the end of it, I played a little bit here and there. I mean, I would just imagine it's got to be better than the 64, right? I mean, we love the 64, but still, it's on a newer system. It's got to be better. I played a bit of it. I couldn't understand any hate on it. Maybe some people could get a little bit too stuck in the past on some things. I mean, Goldeneye on the 64, you could probably say is better than like the Goldeneye they put out on Wii. So maybe some people kind of felt like that, But I liked it.
Well, I mean, if you guys have not played Perfect Dark Zero, you can play Perfect Dark Zero now on Xbox One with the Retro Replay or Rare Replay compilation disc. It came with Perfect Dark and Perfect Dark Zero, which is pretty cool. Now,
that disc as man, that I tell you, that's tempting on an Xbox. Just for that disc alone,
Oh yeah.
Shouts out to people still making compilation discs. Those are one of the greatest things in gaming ever.
Now Jason, he hit the nail on the head with this. He says, Final Fantasy 13, I liked it being so linear, and I was able to put it down for months and pick it right back up and not having to worry about not knowing where to go. It was the perfect RPG with a person with a busy life that doesn't have time to play a game in order to remember what to do next. And I do have to agree with that. Final Fantasy 13 does get a lot of hate, but for people like us that work like 80 hours, that don't have time to put 80 hours into a game, that was one of the things that I did like about Final Fantasy 13. Is Final Fantasy 13 the best Final Fantasy? No. But I do like the fact that if I was to play Final Fantasy 13 today and then play it 3 months later, I know exactly what's going on. I do like that. I do agree with his comment with that.
That is a bonus, to a lot of us. The fact, just mentioning going back to something after not playing it and not being lost. I've said that before. Yakuza is the only game really I can do that in. I recently tried to go back to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I was like, I have to restart this. Like, I can't do this. So the fact with the RPG, you can go back into it. That's a big selling point. I honestly have not, other than Crystal Chronicles and some DS games, I've not played a Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, I remember. Sorry to cut you off, but I
No.
remember playing like Zelda Wind Waker, and I played it like nonstop, and then I stopped for like two or 3 months because I got some other game, and I went back to go play, and the last place I saved was like in the middle of the ocean. So it was like I went to go play, and Link's like on his ship, ready to sail somewhere else. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had to start the game all over again. But just because I didn't remember, so I mean that's something to look into. Another game that really makes you think of that is Dead Space. Dead Space 1 and 2 did really well with the fact that if you put the game down and you picked it back up, you were able to go back to where you were because Dead Space had like a button that you would push that would show you where to go next. And even games like Skyrim and Elder Scrolls, those kind of games, you could go back and you could look at your journals and stuff. It would kind of like date what you were doing. So to make things easier, because I mean, I'll be honest, man, I love JRPGs, but there's such a huge commitment that sometimes I don't play them because I don't have the time, Yeah,
you want to, to some people I can understand shorter gameplay amounts. A lot of people are critical of. That actually draws me to a game. Like if I can have a good experience, I'll buy my used cheap games and I sit there, pay $5 and I play it for 2 to 3 hours. If I never touch it again, that $5 was worth it. So if I can have a full game experience, actually get through the whole thing, enjoy it, catch the story, and even if I paid a $50, $60 more of a premium price, I still get that experience and can get through it in a timely manner. To me, sometimes that's worth it. Once again, the cheaper the better. But a short amount of gameplay, like I said, some people it's a turnoff. To me, I'm more drawn to that because if I can beat a game, I would rather do that. I usually don't. I have a short attention span. I start playing something else. It can happen to anybody. Very busy, jobs, families. Sometimes I just sit around and don't do anything. It's just weird. But that's just a fact of life. Things like that happen. There's many factors to it. So, like I said, if I can get the full experience in a less amount of time, that's awesome. Or if I have that game that I can play in spurts here and there and still remember what I'm doing and how to play the game, over a long period of time, sometimes too, that's even more rewarding. I like to be able to have options like that as a gamer. Not every game needs to be, a full-on intense 1,000 hours.
Yeah, I think you agree with me, James. There's times that like I will hear a gamer talk about a game, and they'll be like, "Yeah, this game was really good, but man, it was only 10 hours long," and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this game. Like,
yeah,
to me, like 10 hours, 8 hours for some like, especially action games. Like the best example would be like Last of Us. I thought what made Last of Us so fun to me wasn't just the story. I mean, the game is amazing, but also what's amazing about it is there's no filler. There's no fat to it. You played it, you could finish it one weekend, you were done. And you were like done with it, and you were just like, that was a fun video game. I love that aspect. I love games that do that. If someone wants to tell me, hey, this game's only like 8 hours long, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get it, because I'll know that I'll get my $60 worth. I'll get, or cheaper. I'll buy that game, I'll play it, enjoy it, and to me, I would rather play a game and finish it than spend the money and play a game and be like, I'll beat it one day. I don't like doing that.
Exactly. Like I said, it's just like I said, the short amount of time you can take in that whole experience, hey, I'm fine with that. I fully understand when people don't, but sometimes too, what some people perceive as they give a negative review because something is short. Like I said, me and you, a lot of people I'm sure are drawn to that just because time, as you get like older and just like I said, life's jobs, families, like time is a little bit more precious. And if you can condense more stuff into a shorter period of time and still get that, full feeling of the game, hey, that's great. That also leaves you time to play other stuff.
Yeah, and the last comment I wanted to mention before we get into games that we love that other people may not love is Justin, my good friend, Down Phoenix. He says, Alone in the Dark for the Xbox 360. I thought it was a well-made game, and through it had some bugs. It did really cool things, such as fire effects they use, as well as crafting system. Now, I will say, for the record, I have not played Alone in the Dark for the Xbox 360. They made like a remake a couple years ago. I didn't get a chance to play it. Still, now when I think of Alone in the Dark now, it makes me think of Christian Slayer because of that horrible movie. I think of that every time I hear Alone in the Dark. I'm like, Christian Slayer, which I know Alone in the Dark was like predating, Resident Evil. It was like one of the first survival horror games, as well as like Sweet Home and stuff. But
anytime you think of Christian Slater, it's always a good time, Dude, we were watching Tales from the Dark Side the other night. And this is old horror show from the early 80s. And we're sitting there, my wife is like, dude's like, that's Christian Slater. And you look at him and it was like a 15-year-old Christian Slater in Tales from the Dark Side. But Alone in the Dark, I have it on PS3. I'm about 99% sure that's the same one. Mm-hmm. I've had a friend that played it, and he went through it, thought it was okay. It did seem, pretty good. It was one of the earlier PS3 games that I bought. It was cheaper. I was, trying to pick up, a few more games, and it seemed pretty cool. It's one that one day, I might go back and mess with a little bit more, especially, with the, recommendation like that, and hearing that from someone we know. Definitely want, to go back and look into. And like I said, it's really cheap right now too.
Yeah, I mean, like I always say, I have friends that are gamers that I think have a good palette of gaming. Like when they recommend a game, I definitely try it out. And I've never played Alone in the Dark for the 360, but hearing Down Phoenix kind of praise it makes me want to try to play it. Now, we're going to get into games that we love that everyone hates, and I have 3 games I wanted to mention. The first game I wanted to mention is one that everyone hates because I hear it all the time, and that is Sonic Boom on the Wii U. Now, I may be a little biased with Sonic Boom, and maybe you can agree with this, James. You tend not to hate a game as much when you don't buy it. Sonic Boom was a gift. It was a Christmas gift from my friend Amanda. She sent it to me, and she really enjoyed it. I watched her do Let's Plays of it, and I enjoy what I was watching. Now, the game is not perfect by all means. There's frame rate drops. You can tell that this was a rushed project, but it's really not that bad, especially with the writing. The writing to this game, because it's playing off the kids' television show, I believe that Nickelodeon does, the Sonic Boom TV show. It was very funny, the characters looked a lot different than what we were used to. I know Knuckles was like a roid, big bulky guy, and he was really stupid, which we didn't really see that in previous Knuckles iterations, but it was funny. The game made me laugh, and that made me like look past the kind of tarnished sharp corners of gameplay. It made me look past it because I like, you know what, this game doesn't play great, but I'm having fun. That's one of the games I definitely have to mention. Now, what about you, James?
I'm gonna go back to somewhat of an older one. Lots of times it's much maligned, but Pit Fighter. I coming up with it in the arcades when it came out, it was really awesome for its time. The digitized graphics, sometimes people, they hate on those. I tend to love them a bit more as time goes on. The home versions are the ones that people really kind of knock on. The Super NES, the Genesis, especially the Super NES. And they're all kind of bad, but I'm proud of the fact I made it through the Super NES one at home. I beat it, and it's still one. I was playing the one of the Midway collections on PS3. I was really looking for Narc.
That. Yeah, I was just about to mention that's like the best way to play it.
Yeah, Narc was not on there, but I saw Pit Fighter, and honestly, if I see Pit Fighter, I'm gonna sit there and play it. And every time I play it, I end up having a good time. It's not Street Fighter. It's not. I mean, except for the fatalities, Mortal Kombat wasn't really that great. And it's kind of a relative too, because I remember playing Pit Fighter before Mortal Kombat, and it at the end of the day, it's all digitized graphics. It's all kind of crappy looking, but it's a beautiful crap to me.
When I think of Pit Fighter, I think of like the one dude that had like the one black dude that had the jogging pants with the switchblade knife, and
the one that says, "I'm bad, like Southside Joe," I think.
Oh God, he looked like a crackhead that you would find at a laundromat. Like, it was awesome. I loved it. Now, another game that I would mention that gets a lot of hate, and honestly, I hated this game too until I took the time to put my feelings aside and play it just for what it is, a video game. I sat it aside and played it as a video game, and that is Mighty Number 9. Like, as well as I do, I slammed this game so hard because I supported it in Kickstarter. It had a lot of drama to it. There was a lot of delays. There were a lot of problems with it. But at the end of the day, I sat down and I went to go play it, and I told myself, this is not going to be Mega Man. Even though it was like advertised as a spiritual successor of Mega Man, I'm like, you know what? This isn't Mega Man. This is a game that's just what it is, and play it for what it is. And it really wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. It's not perfect by any means, but if you were to find it out in the wild for like $10, I would say go ahead and pick it, because it is still a solid game as long as you're not playing on the Wii U, because the Wii U had terrible frame rate issues. But get on the PS4 or Xbox One, and it's not that bad of a run and gun platformer.
No, like you said, sometimes they're not paying for something. You would given me a code for it.
Yeah.
I'd heard about. I didn't have to deal with any of the drama of kickstarting and waiting and being promised this and that. I just played it for what it was, and especially being free. And like I said, anything nowadays, it's a lot cheaper. And really, if you can just ignore the drama that kind of came with it all and just take it for just a video game, yeah, it is pretty damn fun.
Sometimes you have to do that. I think sometimes, with social media, we get so caught up with the politics of video games that we forget that we're playing video games, if that makes any sense. We get so caught up in what the developers are doing on Twitter, what YouTubers are saying about what, and it kind of tarnishes our experience. And sometimes you just kind of have to go into it blind and just be like, you know what, I'm playing a video game. This is made for enjoyment. And if you have fun, then to me, it did its job. Mighty Number 9, I had fun playing it. It did its job in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
Now,
that's one of the
you,
good
James?
Things. Oh man, there's got so many. I have a few written down. Here's another one. It's a couple of games in a series, I would say, up until recently, where they actually had good games come out. But Fist of the North Star. Renting the one on the Nintendo, was it great? No, but it's one. It sometimes has to do with a fondness of when you were a kid. I played the Game Boy one a lot, and the Game Boy one was a one-on-one fighter. It wasn't even like a side scroller kind of crappy beat 'em up, and yet I still sat there and played it. And I like to think, even as a dumb kid, that if it was really that bad, I would have just put it down and stopped. Whether the last battle, on the Genesis, that was one. Same thing with Black Belt on the Master System. And I absolutely love Black Belt. And even discovering that game a little bit later in life and finding out that the Japanese version was Fist of the North Star. I don't know. Fist of the North Star is just pretty awesome. The anime, the games. And finally, with the 360 and PS3, they started to get some really kind of cool beat-em-up releases that I think were actually, worthy of that name. But the older ones, especially the Nintendo, and I'm pretty positive the Game Boy one, catch a little bit of flack. But they were ones that I still always enjoyed playing.
Yeah, that's one that I really enjoy on the Xbox 360 and PS3. My last one I want to talk about is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. The reason why I choose this is the same reason that Jason chose Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was a game made for the American audience. It was kind of dumbed down like Super Mario Brothers 2, which was actually Doki Doki Panic. They didn't release Lost Levels until Super Mario All-Stars, which is the true Super Mario Brothers 2, because they thought it was too hard. They thought Final Fantasy might have been too hard for American audiences, so they made Mystic Quest, and it is a lazy man's RPG. It's very linear. There's not a lot of customizations. And to be honest, it's really not that bad. It's got a great soundtrack. And the game's good just to play for what it is. It's very simplistic. It's one of those games that, to me, it's like if you were to play a JRPG using a remote to change channels, that is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I like it. It's not that bad.
I have to admit, I had beaten Final Fantasy 1. I got very far in Final Fantasy 2, 3. I got stuck in Mystic Quest, which is a little bit shameful when you hear about how easy that game was supposed to be. But when you do realize, the facts behind it of how that was supposed to be more of an introduction, they weren't expecting people to have played other Final Fantasies. It wasn't that bad. It's one now. I saw it. It was cheap. I was like, man, I'm gonna buy this because I don't know. This is an RPG I think I could get behind even more so now than before, and I plan on getting past that point I got stuck at. And maybe even beating it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, what we're gonna get into is you got one more game, James, you got one more game.
Mortal Kombat Mythologies.
Oh, dude, I love that game.
Come on, I know it's terrible, but anything, and honestly, I'll say anything with the bad FMV scenes, they're not bad. I mean, they're wonderful to me. Where there's anything in Night Trap, Double Switch, Sewer Shark, Mortal Kombat, that was the highlight. That's why it's so inferior and horrible on the 64, because you don't have those cutscenes. Shinobi X or Shinobi Legions on the Saturn, which I absolutely love. Cutscenes or not, I still love that game, but the cutscenes just make it so much better. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan. It's like, yes, they are awful, but they're so awfully wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. Now, before we close the show, we're going to talk about games we've been playing recently. And, James, I want to give you the helm because I know one game that you've been playing a lot, and it's a game that I'm definitely going to be buying very soon. It was going to be like my treat to myself because I just started a new job. It's going to be my little treat that I buy, and that's the game that you're going to mention. What have you been playing, James?
I mean, Yakuza 0. I can't stay away. I mean, I'm not going to say I sit there for hours every day. I can skip a few. It's a game I admittedly I like to stretch out. I don't want to cram through it all in one day, but there's always so much. I was talking to our friend John about it because he picked it up, and was telling me he's really enjoying it. And I'm hearing a lot of people really digging it, and he's like, man, it's such a time just flies by. And it's not in a bad way. It's just you think like an hour's gone past, but you've been sitting there playing it like 3 or 4. Each new Yakuza game is my favorite. Every time I'm a little bit worried, like there's a real estate segment on this one where I'm buying real estate and you have to set managers, and I'm just like, oh god, I'm like, what? I don't want to do this. I start playing it. I'm like, hey man, this is fun. Actually, I look forward now to checking in on seeing, what kind of money's coming in. Everything they add, they always manage to pull off. Like I said, whether it's the driving in Part 5, which they never did, it's simple, but it's fun. I'm having an absolute blast. Majima and Kiryu, my 2 favorite characters in the game, are the only 2 you're really playing through as. and amazing game. And I do want to say too, kind of on the thought of Yakuza, I decided to watch a couple of Yakuza movies. Now, I'd seen the movie version of the game, which is very good, but I thought, I like Mafia movies. I like this Yakuza game. I'm going to check out some actual Yakuza movies, like from Japan. And I thought about, started going back to like some of the ones in the 60s and 70s. But I looked at a couple lists. I did some research on what I might want to watch. And this one series kept popping up. It was called Outrage, Beyond Yakuza. And there's a sequel called Beyond Outrage. So it's the Outrage series by Beat Takeshi, who was a former comedian who actually has a video game which ended up on a lot of worst game lists. It's called Takeshi's Castle. Or it was based on a game show he was on. So he goes by Beat Takeshi, or Takeshi Kitano is his actual name. But he did these Yakuza movies, and they really blew me away. I rented one, and then I rented the other one right away and sat and watched them back to back. A lot of the characters seem straight out of the Yakuza game series, and come to find out, he's actually going to be a character model and voice actor in Yakuza 6.
Oh, wow.
Which is it just really kind of came full circle. And I found out they're making a third Outrage movie. Like each one is spaced about 5 to 6 years apart. And he's also in the movie. He stars in it. He's not like a major role. He's kind of a significant character, but he's not the star. And he's really great in it. So, just playing the amazing game, Yakuza 0, I've kind of fallen into this Yakuza genre of movies, which I'm really appreciating. So, Outrage and Beyond Outrage, if you love the Yakuza game series and you think you might want to check out a movie, I highly recommend those. And also just the actual Yakuza movie, or also, Like a Dragon is what it's called, in Japan by Takashi Miike.
Oh, yeah, I love Takashi Miike. I was about to mention, I didn't know he did those movies. I know he's really well known for making horror movies, but he actually made a lot of great Yakuza movies. So I was actually about to mention that.
Yeah, he did the Dead or Alive series. And like I said, there's the Takashi Miike and Takeshi Kitano. So there's two different ones. Their names are quite confusing. But the Dead or Alive series is quite an awesome another one that I'm looking forward into getting to. A little bit more crazy than the other ones, but either way, man, just playing that and watching those movies was awesome. And I also was playing River City Ransom Tokyo Rampage on the 3DS. It's on the eShop, and it's also available, on hard copy. If you like River City Ransom, I know the Underground is coming out soon from the Kickstarter, but this is one that's already out. And, if you're a fan of that series, man, it's just amazing. And it kind of solidified my thought of how similar it is to the Yakuza games. As far as the, it's a beat 'em up. You're eating food, you're getting jobs. It was just kind of a old school throwback. It still felt like I was playing Yakuza, but just many years ago. So I've been having a blast, with just both of those series and the movies lately. It's been really awesome.
Nice. Now, games I've been playing, it's kind of slim because, like I said, I started a new job, so I haven't had a chance to play a whole lot of games. Now, 2 weeks ago, I did play and finish Resident Evil 7, and it was awesome. You guys can check out my review on youtube.com/Xander Skullion. I thought it was a really fun game, and it was another one of those games. I rented it on Redbox. I finished it the weekend. It was a shorter game, but it had all the main meat and potatoes that I love about gaming. I do love the new direction that Capcom took with Resident Evil with the first person view. It didn't feel gimmicky. It felt very similar to an older Resident Evil in the aspects that it had that survival horror. It didn't have so much of the action that we became accustomed to with Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. So sometimes you'd have people that played Resident Evil 7 that were used to 4, 5, and 6, and they're like, man, this doesn't feel like Resident Evil. This feels like an Outlast clone or a PT clone. And this is because they were, in my opinion anyway, they were grasping at straws at stuff that they were familiar with. because they didn't play the older Resident Evils. But I do have to say, if you're an old Resident Evil fan, I highly recommend Resident Evil 7. I know they have some new DLC coming out as well, so if you have finished Resident Evil 7, you can play the new DLC. They have one that's already out, one that's coming out very soon, I believe spring that's coming out. I want to say April or March. That kind of expands the story, because this is like almost like a soft reboot of Resident Evil.
Yeah, I will say too, because I had played that one too, and coming from not, really, really loving a Resident Evil since Part 2, and recently 0. I did really, really enjoy 0, but 7, I don't know, just to me it had that old feeling. Like maybe someone who is accustomed to, like you said, maybe they like the 5, the 6, and they just don't like this, new way, because it is very different. But I think at the heart of it, it definitely does. It made me jump. The 1 and 2 made me jump here and there. So at the same time, it was kind of like a throwback while still being a completely new experience, and just very cool. Like I said, if you're skeptical about it, because it just Redbox it. Check it out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But maybe actually give it a shot, and you might actually enjoy it.
Exactly. I've been playing. I finished that, and the last game I want to talk about that I've been playing a lot is Stardust Valley on the PS4. It's an indie game. They're coming out with a physical copy, I believe, next month. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. But I bought it, or actually I didn't buy it. My girlfriend Jamie bought it because she really likes like Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing, and we were playing the hell out of Dragon Quest Builders. We love those like crafting kind of games, and that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it's a crafting farm simulator. It's, if you love Harvest Moon, I would recommend this game. We've been playing it, I think last Sunday we played it for like 14 hours. I mean,
You've been playing that one a lot.
I
recognize that name when you said it.
Yeah, we've been playing Stardew Valley like crazy. So if you guys want a physical copy, you can pre-order it on Amazon. If not, I think it's like $9 or $10 on PS4 to download it digitally. But yeah, that's pretty much my games I've been playing recently. I've been playing a little bit of games here and there, but not enough to kind of just go into a whole synopsis about it. I mean, I played Strider on PS4. Awesome. It's Strider. It was cheap. It was like $4 on a flash sale. And,
I missed that sale, man. I meant to go buy that one, and I went too late.
Yeah, I played some of that, and I downloaded the new Fire Emblem game that's exclusive for mobile. It's a new Nintendo mobile game. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, so I can't mention too much about it. I know my friend Devin's been playing the hell out of it. He really likes it. From what I see, it's a very simplified strategy RPG. So if you're a big fan of the Fire Emblem series, it's like that, but a little bit more simplified, which is not a bad thing for a mobile game. It's a play as you go kind of thing,
Very cool. Yeah, I heard about that one too. So I could see it branching out more and more mobile games. At least doing something a little different though. So
indeed, and it's free. It does have some microtransactions if you're impatient, but it is free to download. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it, and we're gonna cut the episode. We're gonna cut this episode kind of short. We do have I have some other things I got to take care of. Like I said earlier in the episode, guys, I started a new job. I gotta get up at like 5 a.m. in the morning, but it's been good. I've been enjoying this new job. But with that being said, I do have to cut the episode a little shorter, about 30 minutes shorter than we usually do. But I do want to let you guys know I am planning something really nice for episode 100. I can't believe that we've made it that far. A lot of podcasts are, they start really strong, then they kind of fizzle out because people get distracted. And I mean, James, you and I have been very consistent about this for the past 4 years now. July would be our 5-year anniversary in July. So, yeah, it's crazy. And if you guys are listening to us on YouTube, be sure to check us out on Podomatic.com. That's Podomatic.com/Xsgaming Podcast, and also on iTunes. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, be sure to leave us a review. It really helps with the search results and helps other people find our show. So with that being said, I'm going to say, guys, as always, happy gaming. And what about you, James?
And I'm going to say a couple things. I'd say one of the most valuable things you can give us is your time. So thank you for listening, and have a pleasant evening, everybody.
See you guys very soon for episode 100. Can't get enough of Xsgaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on podomag.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support, and happy gaming.